منبر صوت الشعب، الراي والراي الآخر، شعب واحد ووطن واحد.
مرحبا بكم مشاهدين لصوت الشعب. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome everyone to the forum. يا ريت تعملوا شير للحلقة. خلينا نرحب بكم جميعا في هذا الصباح. طبعا عندنا هنا في أمريكا منبر صوت الشعب صديف واحد من القيادات السياسية المهمة، وكمان أيضا واحد من الأكاديميين في جنوب السودان. This morning we are going to host Professor Adwok Nyaba. معلش لمشاهدين الانترفيو بكون بإنجليزي، لكن also will try to give chance لناس بتاعتنا في جنوب السودان also to catch up in Arabic، لأنه الهدف من اللقاء هو طبعا نحن في قبل كم يوم المضت كان في كم لقاءات كده أجراء بروفيسور أدوك نيابا مع الأستاذ الصحفي مسيان شريلو. ده كان اللقاء الأول، وخلال هذا اللقاء أيضا بروف أثار قضايا مهمة جدا actually. فنحن في إدارة بتاعت صوت الشعب ولي همية بتاعت إنه جنوب السودان we need to find solution to actually the current situation what going on in the country. And that while Voice of the People, like, we reach out to Prof to contact him and try to invite him to elaborate more about الكلام اللي هو ذكره في الحلقة الأولى مع الأستاذ ماتيان شيريلو. وأيضا برضو كان مايكل كريستوفر، الصحفي مايكل كريستوفر مشالو وبرضو أثار معه بعض اللقاءات. لكن في الحلقة ده الحلقة ما هنستضيف فيه ناس كتير، نحن هنستضيف بروف فقط، وبعد ما ننتهي من البروف هنقفل الحلقة. لكن تومورو صباح يعني بساعة 6 هيكون عندنا حلقة بنستضيف فوقه أمباسر إيمانويل ودومينيك، وهندي فرصة لكل الناس نجي نقيم الحلقتين ديل الكلام بتاع بروفيسور أدوك نيابا، لأن هو كان أشار نقاط مهمة and we are going to go through those some questions with him. بنديه كل حرية بتاعه to answer. We hope إنه the internet will save us. بروف قاعد معنا في الاستديو. Please share the live video and let me welcome the Prof to the studio. Assalamu alaikum, Prof. I hope you are hearing me. Hello, good morning, Prof.
Yes, good afternoon, actually good evening from Juba. Yeah, the sun is now setting, and very happy to be on this forum, and I want to thank you, Edward, for this opportunity, and also want to thank and greet all the South Sudanese on this forum. It's been a long time, and one is really happy to find such an opportunity to be able to discuss some of the issues pertaining to our context, this difficult context in which we are.
That is very wonderful, Prof. Peter Adwog Nyaba. Actually, it's my pleasure. And let me thank you actually for accepting the invitation. People are saying there is echo, but what I will do, I will ask you the question and then I will put myself into the mute so people can listen to you very well. Let us go direct to our discussion. The first question will be, what are the thoughts regarding the adoption of the federal system in the Republic of South Sudan? In your view, Professor Adwo.
Well, Edward, this topic is a very emotive topic because I think many South Sudanese are very keen to see that the federal system in South Sudan is implemented because they believe that it's a panacea for solving all the problems which we have. I have a different opinion to this, in that federalism as a system of rule, it doesn't just come out of the blue. Even when people demand it, there must be some objective conditions for implementing it. And my last talk with Young Chirilo, I said very clearly that federalism has a history in South Sudan. If you analyze this history, you will find that it is a demand by a section of the society which feels marginalized, which is excluded politically, which is discriminated against socially on the basis of religion, basis of culture, basis of language, or they have been economically marginalized or neglected. This was the situation in South Sudan at the beginning of the independence of the Sudan. And Southerners saw to it that to be equal with the North, they needed time. And this started much earlier. If you go back to the Juba Conference, 1947, Southerners wanted to be left under the British rule in order to be able to catch up with the North. But when this thing was defeated and Sudan became independent, now the focus was now on federation, because the Southerners felt themselves, the Southern political elite saw themselves as inferior to Northerners, and therefore could not face them on equal footing in everything in the country, including this competition for power. That's how this thing came up, the issue of federation. So this is an aspect of federation which we need to consider, that even now in the present days, why you have a lot of voices talking about federation, it is not because really they are genuine about that the power goes to the people, involving the people in all the aspects of the democratic process. No, it's because they feel also the forces which are calling, the social and political forces calling for federation, are people almost on the same far as the Southern Sudanese in the 50s, who feel that they have been neglected because the system is bad, as you know. This system is it is totalitarian, it is dictatorial, it is discriminative, it is oppressive. So the only thing for them is to ask for federation, such that, like people who think that when that once you have federation, it means that you will have cut off all this oppression, this marginalization, this exploitation. No, it will still continue. What you will be doing is actually distributing it to the smaller areas. So if it is at the level of South Sudan now, it will now become level of Equatorial, level of Bargazal, level of Upper Nile. And even there, they will even go back to the states and say that we want to, even federate at the state level and so on. So it really it loses its real meaning as a system of rule that is satisfying the needs and aspiration of the people. That's why I oppose to it. The other aspect is that, Sudan, or South Sudan for that matter, is a highly centralized post-colonial state. It has not been easy anywhere in the world to federate a post-colonial state, because federalism is done or is achieved by groups or entities who are independent of each other. So they surrender some of their powers, some of their powers to the center, which they all create and say, okay, like for instance, they surrender. If you look at the way the American Federation was formed, you see the states. First it started by the 13 states, and now you have 50 states. So you have a state power, certain powers which the state implement or secure, and there are powers which the central or the federal government implements. There is no mixture between the two. But in a situation like ours, it is so impossible, it becomes difficult, because we have had, if you look at the constitution, the interim constitution of South Sudan, 2005, it was a federal system. Each state has its constitution, it has its judiciary, it has all its things. But they were not implementing these powers, especially the judicial powers, the economic powers. No, they were not being implemented. So slowly, when we came to the constitution of 2011, they even centralized it further by removing the word, by actually underlining the word decentralized system of government. And it's not even decentralized, because everything is implemented, is executed from Juba. If you want money, you have to come from the state to Juba. Anything, you have to come to Juba. And in fact, it is a real, it's not easy. It is not easy to do that. The only possibility, the only possible way by which federalism could have been implemented was when the war erupted. And the war erupted because we had two opposing forces. The unfortunate thing is that these forces were all of the same class. They're not different classes. They are all sections of the petty bourgeoisie, of the parasitic capitalist class, which have split themselves along ethnic lines, struggling over power and wealth. And that's why we said, okay, if you want, this is what Dr. Riak proposed, that want the South Sudan to be federated. We said, okay, if you want to federate, it means that you only have power here in Upper Nile. We consider ourselves as people of Upper Nile. Let the Equatorians develop their own power. Let they develop their own political party, political movement, and be independent. The same thing was Barra Gizal. But only that we have behind our heads that we have the unity of our people, which means that when we fight the system in Juba, because you need to destroy the center in order to create federal entities that can become federal parts of parts of the country. And once you destroy it, you destroy the power base here in Juba. Then now these groups will come, having their own independent positions and conditions of joining this federation, for instance. Okay, in this case, you can now say, okay, once they agree, when these social and political forces agree that they will have one federation, then you know which powers will go to the center, which powers will go to the states, and so on. So now you do it. This is how the federation in America or in Switzerland was effected. So in this respect, because of the difficulties of challenging the power in the center, the difficulty of even sharing it, because the war itself came as a result of refusal to share the power, even for democratic dispensation itself. The war came up. The problem which arose within the SPLM, that the stifled democracy is a root, the driver of the conflict in South Sudan. And this is a simple thing. The question of sharing power within the same, if the question of sharing power within the same party can cause a national war, a civil war in the country, what do you think will happen about sharing different parts of the country? So there's the difficulty. That is the difficulty. So for those who want to talk about federalism, my question is, how are you going to do it? How are you going to federate it? Because you need to use force. You can't do it while you are sitting somewhere in Juba or somewhere in East Africa and say, I want federation.
And that is very important, bro. How are we going to do it? How are we going to implement it?
Yeah. So anybody who insists that the federation should be implemented, let us see how will they implement it. This is the question I asked to Richard Muller, Dr. Richard Muller. He's a good lawyer, a learned lawyer, and I asked him, how are you going to implement it? Because this is what the South Sudanese want to hear.
Very good, bro. Also, the second question, let me mute you because there is echo. The second question, can territorial federalism work in South Sudan? And if not, what is the alternative form of the governance South Sudan can be governed under, in your opinion, Prof?
I don't understand what you mean by territorial federalism.
The regional,
the kind of thing which sometimes all over.
The
people from a certain region go back to the region.
Yes, exactly. The regionalisms like Upper Nile or Barghazal or.
That's what you mean.
Yes.
Then why Why bind ourselves again with federation? But we separate. You see, the Equatorians want to separate. They have been saying this. But then let them go. Let them have their country. Let those in Upper Nile have their country. Let those in Barghazel have their country. If that's the thing, if that is the issue. But that will also be impossible almost, because then it would mean war. Because anybody who wants to separate, it means that the rest will fight him, and this will create more chaos, more problems, more destruction to the lives and property of people. So I don't think it is something that we can entertain in a way. This territorial thing, because even we had to fight 50 years Sudan to be able to separate now. You can see this, and also because there was a system there was a the Muslim brothers wanted to build their own Islamic state. That's why they said, let the South go. It is more of a headache to them than otherwise. If it were the democratic parties, it was not going to be easy for South to succeed and form what the country which we have today.
Okay, bro. Then what is the best system of governance can be actually used in South Sudan, in your opinion?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that we have met, there's a problem that occurred. You know, when some of us joined the war, the idea was to fight for the whole country. This was the first thing that came out with the program of the SPLM, the manifesto, that you have a Sudan which is socialist, which is secular, which is democratic, which is, where you have justice, you have equality and fraternity. Somewhere in the middle, and because of certain realities, of course, because the bulk of the SPLM was from the south, and even in the south, there was this thing that why should we fight for the whole country? Because this would mean that people are more political and the political culture was so advanced. But no, it was not the case. The separatist tendency in the south was strong, underlined by what I told you before, that the south, they see the north as a threat. We don't see ourselves as equal, as people who can compete on the same plane and expect to succeed, because they have advantages, and for that reason, it is easy to separate. That's the easiest thing. But okay, in the context of war of liberation, because this is the most important thing which people tend to forget. Why did we fight this war of national liberation? Because liberation means to emancipate, to free you from oppression, from discrimination, from political exclusion, and so on, in order not to repeat it. So you liberate. When you liberate yourself, you are also liberating the oppressor. Say that you are getting rid of the word oppression. There will be no oppression, no marginalization, no nothing. So the forces, the social forces, social and political forces for that program were so limited, they were so weak in the SPLM. And that is why the SPLM did not produce a political program as to what to do in the context of this war of national liberation. That's why it was just a question of fighting the war and chasing the enemy. And chasing the enemy, once the enemy has been chased from a town or from a village, the SPLA itself goes away, goes to find other front, leaves nothing to be done in that area. This is all that has happened within the 21 years of war. such that by the time the war finished and we had peace in 2005, the SPLM controlled almost two-thirds of South Sudan. Two-thirds of South Sudan, what was it doing? What did it do? It did not establish a state. It did not create a counter society, which would be the essence of any war of national liberation. You create a counter society, a society different from the society under the oppressive regime, which means your system of rule will be different. Your culture, the language you use with people, the relationship between the people will be different. It will not be a relationship of superiority and inferiority. No, it would be a relationship of solidarity, of fraternity among the people, so that we consider ourselves as one and the same people. This did not happen. So what occurred after this, the signing of the peace agreement? The SPLM recoiled back to the old system of tribalism, the old system of liberal democracy, which we even cannot understand. We don't understand. The economy was built on liberal economic policies, free market. Such a poor country like South Sudan, you cannot build it, you can't develop it based on this liberal economic policy. That's why you can explain now why after 15 years of rule, of SPLM rule in South Sudan, South Sudan is poorer now than when we started in 2005. In 2005, there was a lot of money from the oil. Now there is nothing. Even people are going for months without getting their salaries. Embassies are being closed outside because there's no money. Where did this money go? This money disappeared, has been eaten up by this class I told you before. The parasitic capitalist class that emerged immediately from the war economy have taken over the country and are controlling all the means and all the economic means of the country, mainly the petroleum revenues. And this money they have not invested in the country. They've taken it out because of the relationship they built with the regional and international comprador capitalists in East Africa and in Uganda. So the money, South Sudan money, you find it in Uganda. It has improved the economy in Uganda. It has improved the economy in Kenya, in Ethiopia, in Sudan. The money going from here. So what happens when the money is going out is not put into development? People, the country becomes poor. And this is what it is today. Not only that, because of this reliance on this this kind of relationship with the external comprador group, the elite, the ruling elite, find it more easy not to produce food here. It's better you bring the food from Uganda and from Kenya. So our farmers, our peasants are doing nothing. You see, they cannot produce because they have not been assisted in order to be able to produce food. So there is hunger everywhere in the villages. People have come to town. What are they doing in town? There's all kinds of bad things which are happening and being reproduced here in the cities. So this is the kind of of development which the SPLM leadership pursued for the last 15 years, which we see. And this is precisely because, you see, as a class, as a parasitic class, they have no interest in developing the country. They have no interest in developing the people or improving the productive means of the people. No. They want people because say that they can be manipulated, they can be turned against each other, and in their competition for war, I mean for wealth and power, they use the people to turn them against them and say they can fight themselves. So this is the situation. And it is happening because, as I said, the SPLM has deviated from the liberation struggle. Liberation struggle, SPLM as a social and a political force is part and parcel of the national democratic forces, revolutionary forces, like the APLF in Eritrea, APRDF in Ethiopia, Tigray, the TPLF. These are the forces of the national democratic revolution with a definite program for developing the country, for consolidating the independence of the people, for social and economic development, for cultural development, and so on. So we have missed this opportunity of turning the revolution, turning the war of national liberation into the national democratic revolution in order to be able to stimulate agriculture, revolution in agriculture, because you need to produce enough food for the people, for them to eat and for them to sell to the market. Say that you have an internal market, which now can, if there's an excess, it can be exported. South Sudan is an agricultural land. All over, all throughout South Sudan, it is an agricultural land. It is really a shame that we are unable to do any kind of agricultural production. But on the contrary, we are bringing food from importing food. And here today we have a problem that because of the linkage between the dollar and the imports of food which are imported from outside, the dollar today is 600, I think 600 South Sudanese pounds. This is unimaginable. Now they have printed 1,000 notes. How do you print notes without the production? Because it's only when you have production, you have increased production. That's why you have, because you will have a lot of money in circulation. Now you're just circulating money without its value in terms of material value, nothing at all. So this is where the thing is. We have missed it, and we need to come back to where we missed it, to stimulate and launch the national democratic revolution, which is that all these social and political forces need to agree on this program of national democratic revolutionary program for this country really to come back and be put on the right and correct footings, so that it can now compete with other countries in the world. So you need time for that.
We'll talk about that. Actually, before
because of that, you are talking about what system?
Yes.
Because
what is
the
system, alternative system?
Yes.
Exactly.
Bring the system from outside. The system must come from inside, by us, by the most progressive forces in this society, and come out with the ideas. These ideas should come out that will now take this country out of this situation we are in. And to me, the only way is the launching of the national democratic revolution. That is, say that we are able to really transform the lives of our people from this kind of thing we are in, the poverty we see among our people. A country like South Sudan is rich potentially rich in resources. Andrew, if somebody has 100 heads of cattle in the village, This person, is he a rich, is he a poor person? Somebody with 100 heads of cattle? No, he is not a poor person. But in essence, in reality, he is poor. He doesn't have a decent house to stay in, doesn't have clean water, doesn't have medical service, doesn't have education for his children. But he has this cattle. Because the cattle is kept in the form of cultural wealth, you need to transform this wealth from cultural, being a cultural wealth, to economic wealth and monetize it. You see? And this is the only way you can help and transform the life of this person from being a poor person with all the kinds of things in the cattle camp into a modern farmer who is able to produce cheese, produce milk, who is able to produce beef for the market, who is able, you see, who now has money.
Do you have light in the room?
Sorry?
Do you have light in the room, or you don't have the light? The audience are asking.
I'll put it on just a moment.
Okay. That is good. Sorry to disturb you. Hakim Dango, thank you, Hakim, for asking, reminding Prof to turn on the light.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is it all right?
Sorry.
Is it all right?
Yeah, it's better now. It's much better now.
It's all right.
Yes.
Right now?
Yeah, it's all right now. Yeah, continue.
Yeah, so this is the idea about the National Democratic Revolution. Because it says that you are able to transform this wealth, this potential wealth, into real wealth. The same thing with you go to northern Upper Nile. There's huge areas which can be mechanized for agricultural production, like it used to be before. We used to have cotton in Upper Nile, in Rank, in Geger. These were all schemes. There's schemes for sugar. Sugar in Malut and in Mangala. Sim in Rank, also in the west, the areas of Wadakona. These are all potentials which the SPLM should have done. Immediately after the peace, the idea was to stimulate, you see, and start production in these schemes, in this project. Some of them which were started by the regional government before. Ansara, when the SPLM came there in 1990, it was producing cloth, it was producing domoria, it was producing soap, it was producing oil, eatable oil. What happened? That these things now have to come from Uganda. In Ye, we had plantations, coffee plantations, tea plantations. You see, these are things which SPLM, as a revolutionary force, should have put into place. They should have started all these things in order now to start the production. Because how do people develop? It is by developing these resources. By developing these resources that you also develop the human being. Human being doesn't develop outside the development of the natural resources in which it is. So you need a revolution. You need the national, you have to stimulate the national liberation. The national democratic revolution in order really to put this country back on the development stage.
Go ahead, the doctor. Okay. In the interview with Matiang Shirul, you said
you need a system. You need a system.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Complete that. Yeah. Are you hearing me, bruv? Hello?
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
I was saying in the interview with
Go ahead.
Just
You wanted to ask a question.
yes, yeah. I was saying in your interview with
Hello?
hello, yeah. Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Okay. So the question is, in the interview with Matiang Shirilo, you were saying for South Sudanese to implement the federalism system in South Sudan.
I'm hearing you, yes.
Okay. We need to destroy the center.
Yes.
Center. To implement the federalism, we need to destroy the center, which is now Denka. What do you mean by destroying the center and which is now Denka? Many people are actually confused and asking what the Prof mean by saying that. Can you elaborate more about that? Did you get me, Prof?
By the center.
Yes.
Okay. Center is the system which we have here in Juba. But this is the center, our center. So if you want to have a federation of states, whether they are 10 or 5 or 3, and the way people are talking, you need to destroy the center first. Yeah. So there's a question. Yeah, there's a question from Charlotte.
Yes, there is a question from Charles. Yes.
Okay. There's a question here I'm seeing in front of me.
Yes, you can answer it. Yes.
From Charlotte.
Yeah, bro, can you unmute yourself?
I can join the same center. These are not revolutionaries.
Okay, so let's go to the next question then. Are you hearing me, bro?
A revolutionary will not give up. A revolutionary will not give up and leave the foreground. Sorry? Yeah. Yes, a revolutionary will not give up you until the program is completed.
Very good. Let's go to the next question. What do you think about the coming election in 2022?
What's happening?
Prof, are you hearing me? I'm hearing you. Are you hearing me now? I'm hearing you. Are you hearing me, Prof? Dictor, ita gata Tasmania, Dictor?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, let's go to the question 2. What do you think about the coming election in 2022?
Twenty 2022 is just after a year.
Yes.
So and year in the situation in which we are now. It's not sufficient. It's not sufficient to prepare for elections. Especially if you want elections which are fair, which are free, and which are. So when elections in 2022 is unfeasible, I think you are.
Are you
hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. I just mute myself.
Are you hearing me?
Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you, doctor.
Yeah.
I'm hearing you. Yes, I'm hearing you. I am hearing you.
Yeah, but then okay. So what I'm saying is that it's unfeasible. The elections in 2022 is not feasible. First, because up to this moment, the security arrangements for the formation of the revitalized transitional government of national unity have not all been put in place. That's one, the first condition for that. Number two, the people are still living. We have about more than 5 million people, South Sudanese, living outside the country as refugees. You need to bring them back to the country, resettle them, rehabilitate them. You need to take the way the people who are now in the UN protection of civilians centers. These people need to go back to their homes and so on. To me, in 1 year, it will not be feasible. Now we are in February. Very soon you will have rains. So it means that the year is almost finished. You will not be able to bring these people back to their country and settle them in their places and then be able now to count them. Census, because census is a condition for holding a credible elections. Say that you determine the number of constituencies, of number of people in a particular constituencies. This arrangement is to have a correct census, you need at least 2 years. 2 years, or at most 3 years. You see, such that you can now have a credible number of people and now determine the consequences, the territorial, the electoral constituencies. The other thing is that you need to have the political space, a democratic space to allow people to talk and project their programs, political programs. This one you cannot do in 1 year, because even in Juba now it's not possible to do a rally, a political rally. Even in institutional places like the university, you cannot even do a neutral academic lecture, which has political overtones in it. It's not possible. You'll end up in the blue house. So this situation of elections in 2022 is not possible. That's why I personally think that because the parties have agreed to cease fire and they are still breaking it, but let us assume that as part of the South there is stability. I think it gives these political forces, the parties that have signed the revitalized agreement, to sit down and really, because this is our country. You don't need somebody from outside to come and tell you, look, you should be concerned about your people. These politicians should be really concerned about the conditions of our people. So they should be able to sit down and discuss and debate and say, look, this 3 years or 2 years is not enough for this. You see, I personally think that you need 10 years transition. 10 years of transition to be able to implement a program, a political program that can really bring the country to a level whereby you can now conduct elections. You can conduct credible, fair, and transparent elections. Short of that, to me, it will just be futile attempt to deceive people that 1 year is enough and you can hold elections. No, because then the results of these elections will already have been known that it is so, and so we will be the winners. So this is my opinion, that because of this thing, that you cannot hold the elections in such a short time. What you need to extend the transition for at least another 10 years. And this one, it must be based on the condition. It must be based on the condition that the parties agree. They agree, and they chart out a political program for these 10 years, such that they own this program. It is theirs, and they implement it. And after 10 years, you can now say, okay, this is at least the people will have reconciled. All this anger will have gone. The urge to revenge will not be there, and so you have a country.
انا دايرك بروف بالعربي عشان الناس التانيين ديل برضه ممكن يسمعوا الاجابه بتاعت الاكستنشن بتاعت 10 years or 15 years. انا دايرك تقولوا بعربي لانه وهل do you think the parties هم will they agree هم بيتفقوا they can extend, they understand why are you saying this or no in your opinion? Yes. ما مشكلة, no problem. خلي عربي تاب. Let us
عربي طبعا, لكن كده أنا بجرب.
جرب يا عربي بتاع جوبا كده, جرب.
عربي بتاع جوبا ما في تضاد كده عربية سياسة. لكن ده سياسي. أنت ما ممكن تكفوا كثير.
Exactly.
لكن الكلام بتاعي انه لان الفتره الموجوده زي ما قلت انه بعد 2022 هيكون في انتخابات. انا بفتكر انه السنة 2022 ده قريب خالص. في حاجات كتير لازم يتعمل قبال ده. واحد منهم انه توطين رجوع بتاعت اللاجئين والناس اللي في بلدان البرة عشان يرجعوا للبلد, توطينهم ورجوعهم للمناطق بتاعتهم دي بيحتاج لزمن اكتر. الناس اللي في المشردين في غابات وفي منطقات وسوامس بتاع جنوب السودان كله عشان يرجعوا للمالات بتاعتهم دار وقت. الناس اللي في مراكز بتاعت الأمم المتحدة دار لهم وقت عشان يرجعوا للمناطق بتاعتهم. دار لك وقت كفاية جدا. أنا بفتكر إنه ما دام ناس القوى السياسية وافقوا وهم بينفذوا في الاتفاقية بتاع السلام the revitalized agreement, أنا أفتكر ما في شيء بمنعهم. لو عندهم ما في شيء بمنعهم إنه يقعدوا ويقول إن يا جماعة الوقت اللي عملناه ده وقت ده صغير, وقت ده ما كفاية, لأن عشان تقدر تعمل الانتخابات لازم يكون في تعداد السكان. تعداد السكان عشان تعملوا دي عملية طويل, ده له على الأقل 3 سنة عشان تعملوا بطريقة صح وطريقة علمية. معنى الوقت ده ما كفاية, يبقى إنه لازم يمدوا. عشان يمدوا لازم يكون في اتفاقية, يعني another agreement, a supplement to the revitalized agreement was a program, a political program, political and social and economic program عشان ينفذوا في الفترة دي بتاعت 10 سنة such that by the time 10 سنة ده وانتهت من البرنامج ده بكون already خلاص يعني بكون النفوس بتاع الناس خلاص بقوا وقعوا ما في زول داري شاكل تاني الناس بيكون ساموا بعض يعني ممكن بعد كده الناس يعني ممكن تخش في انتخابات نزيهة وانتخابات يعني ممكن يقول fair and free حرة يعني. فدي دار انه القوة دي لو عندهم وطنية في قلبهم انه يقعدوا ما في شيء بمنعهم انه يقعدوا ويعملوا ملحق للاتفاقية دي يعملوا ملحق حقيقي للاتفاقية بتاع السلام دي بتاع 10 سنة 10 سنة دي أنا بفتكر بيكون صح والعالم ذاته ممكن يعني ممكن يساعد
دكتور
في يساعد الحكومة في إنه يعمل
يا بروف
لأن
hello yes in regard to extension 10 years to 15 years there is a question is it under Riek Machar and Salva Kiir or is it under different leadership in your opinion this and five vice president يعني هل تعد الخمسة النواب ديل ولا
government now.
So the extension, do you mean extension with those government, the five vice president? Yes. يا جو
الواقع هسه لان انت هتغيره كيف؟ انت هتشيله مره كيف؟ ما دي this is the reality we have now. So you have to work with this reality. انت ما ممكن تقول انه سلفا يشيله برا ولا رياض يشيله برا ولا الديل لا انهم انا بقول انه الفورسز العذاب اللي اجتمعوا في خرطوم وادس واتفقوا لهذه الاتفاقيه the revitalized agreement يعملوا اتفاقيه ثاني ناس ممكن يساعد انه كيف الاجزاء بتاع الاتفاقيه يكون شنو الملحق ده يكون شنو اللي هي برنامج بتاع سياسيا اقتصاديا اجتماعيا لفك المشاكل الموجوده هسه مشاكل بتاعت الطعن الاقتصادي في البلد فدار لك حل لو ناس ما تعبانين ما عندهم مويه ما عندهم اي حاجه هسه في مناطق ناس جعانين دي ما دار لك solution to this problem
بروف انا داير قبل ما نمشي قدام
لكن when you put you will start the problem.
Okay, bro. But let us be realistic about this. يعني انت مثلا خلال 10 سنة عندك 5 نواب بتاع الرئيس وعندك برلمان فيه 500 عضو. Do you think, bro, really in 15 years or 10 years مع الحكومة زي ده do you think this government will deliver service to the people of South Sudan? In your opinion, let us be logic here.
No, this is not what we are saying. What I am saying is this: is that can you please close your eye because it comes back to me. The thing is that you have an agreement which is being implemented. This agreement, it is Salva is the president. You have Riek and the other four. Of course, this is something new. It did not happen anywhere in the world that you have 5 vice presidents. It only happened in Yugoslavia after the death of Tito. You see, when the 6th Republic that made up Yugoslavia, each republic was represented by one, and the 6 of them formed what was called the presidency of the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. But this thing of South Sudan is really never happened anywhere, which shows that even our leaders they don't have imagination. That what does it mean to have 5 members, 5 vice presidents, for instance? Okay, the president is there. The powers of president are there. The vice president don't have any powers. It's just delegated. They just delegated by the president. You go to the constitution and read it. So what does it mean when you have 5 and they are each of them as a cluster? Are these separate governments? It has created a big problem, even if not because of this corona. It would really be a bigger problem how this government would be operating as a government in its own. So what I'm saying is that this is a situation which is not, it is very unusual. And as an unusual situation, you have to work with it such that you can be able to change the situation. So what I'm saying is that the forces, those political parties that have agreed, they should now sit down again and see what do we do. In 1 year, we'll not be able to hold the election. We'll not be able to conduct elections. We'll not be able to conduct the census. We'll not be able to do anything. Leave alone the fact that there is no money now even to pay people. So what does that mean? It means that I'm appealing to the patriotic sense of these leaders, that they should really now sit down and work out a way out of this situation, rather than to leave it like that and we assume that after in 2022 things will be okay, we'll go for elections. No, this is not going to happen. You might have another war erupting again. So the best is now to prevent this war erupting. Let us work on a situation that can really improve the already bad situation we have in this country.
Okay, Prof. Before we proceed, there is a question here from Kwach. He's saying, do you think the whole out opposition could be included, Dr. Adwok, or just only those in power now? What do you think about this question?
Yeah, I think those who are holding out should come in. That problem was the issue of ceasefire and so on. So they should come in and then join the other forces. You see, say that you have a comprehensive what do you call it, agreement.
Okay, actually we remain with 3 questions. Given the drier economic situation in our country, how can we build a strong, viable economic in South Sudan, in your opinion, Prof. Adwok?
Yes, the economy. First of all, South Sudan is an agricultural country. It is only by developing agriculture in all its sectors that we will be able to stimulate and trigger out the potential, the surplus potential in this agriculture, which now we can use for social and other social services and building of infrastructure. So the first thing is agriculture, which means what? You need a revolution in agriculture, in crop, in forestry, in livestock, in fisheries, in wildlife. All these are all the elements of agriculture. So what we need is what one of the things which this, as I said before, these political forces should sit down and discuss is to see how they can now develop this agriculture and work it out in order really to be able to generate wealth for the people.
Prof, like let's talk a little bit about the current agreement now. Actually, all the people of South Sudan, they know and even you yourself, the government, the parties, they are not implementing the agreement. So how can we support kind of this agreement, in your opinion? Because it's looked like there is no political will now to implement the agreement between even both parties are in the government. So what do you think? How can people of South Sudan support this?
Yeah, well, of course, the, the agreement has been signed, but it is not being implemented according to the metrics, implementation metrics. But it's, you know, the problem is real, not only with the parties to the agreement, but also with the people. With the people, ordinary people. Is there any movement to ask the people, they ask the government, why this is not being done? Nobody has moved to this extent. The forces that are supposed to ask these questions and ask the government to task why it is not implementing this, they're not doing it. And the reason is that our people have been so much divided along ethnic lines. These 7 years of war is not an easy thing. So while you feel that there is something to which could be done, others will say no, it is not. And this is a difficulty. So the first thing is the question of unity among the people and raising the awareness of the people that Jama, this country belongs to us. It doesn't belong to the leaders. Okay? Yani, even among the intellectuals, Edward, you find in the University of Juba, students are organized on the basis of clans, basis of communities. These are university students, leaders, future leaders in this country. Now, how will you mobilize and bring them and unite them? This would be the force that would really put the government to task, to put these leaders, both Salva Kiir and Riek Machar and Nyandeng and Wani, put them to task why they are not implementing the agreement. But nobody is talking. So we're just sitting. You don't have trade unions here. These are the forces, social and political forces that can have impact on any bad situation, any bad political situation. These are tools for the struggle. So since we don't have these tools for the struggle, the society does not have these tools. It means that the system will remain in place ad infinitum until Yom Al Qiyamah, they say. So,
Yeah.
to me, the buck is with the people themselves. They should organize themselves. Instead of agonizing, they should organize, they should mobilize themselves, they should unite themselves in order to be able to face the situation as it is.
Very good. Let's talk about the southern nationalism. How can we fight the tribalism in order to build one nation and one people in South Sudan? I want you to take a little bit more time, Prof, to talk about this because it's one of the problems which is actually facing Republic of South Sudan and all of us. Further. Unmute yourself, Prof.
Yeah, what I'm saying, that we have a real problem in our hands of ethnicity. And the the fact that we are still in this, we still organize people, even at the intellectual level, people are organizing themselves as ethnicities. This is because the political culture in South Sudan has been weak. It has been weak. Even if you look at South Sudan and Northern Sudan, in the north is more, the more, the awareness is high. The political culture is well entrenched, even at the level, even in the villages, you get them, and this is partly because of the nature of the society there and the religion, the role of Islam in South Sudan. No, here we had the Christianity, and Christianity has been a negative force in as far as development of political consciousness is concerned. So that's why the tribalism as the only way of organizing, you see, became more pronounced in the South, and especially when people had to organize against the government, because there are no bridges that have been built in order to bring people together. People organize as tribes. So even in the schools those years, people organized as tribes in order to fight against the common enemy. This has remained, especially when the Southerners became during the experiment of the self-rule, 1972. You see, when Southerners remain now, you see the enemy that united them is not there, so they are alone now. And lack of ideology, political ideology that brings them together, they now quickly recoiled into ethnic cocoons, and even organized along that, such that in order to fight for power, you had to unite along ethnic, because the political parties were really weak, and that's how this thing has continued up to now. When we came to the war, to the SPLM never encouraged this political education and ideological training. Never, it did not. So it was all military. And because of that, the political awareness and consciousness and the culture of political action remained lagged behind up to this moment. If you look at the SPLM, the way it is organized now, and compare it to other political parties, you will find that those parties, even if they were formed a few years ago, they are more organized, they are more democratic than the SPLM. So this is the problem, because to fight against a certain factor like tribalism, for instance, you need an ideology that unites all the people. Because in the absence of an ideology, and this is what happened in the SPLM, it is what has now led to the ethnic ideology to surge and become the dominant, ideology of governance. So this is in order to fight it now, because what have you done? This thing of ethnic thing created the war, the civil war. The civil war is a result of people organizing along ethnic lines, even within the same party, the SPLM. So in order to fight it, you need a really long time of political education and awareness raising among the people. Because this is the first thing which needs to happen. And then inculcate the love for the country. Because if you love your people, if you love yourself and your tribe, it means you will have no love for the country. So you will not be patriotic. I'm not for the word nationalism, because nationalism has some negative connotation in it. It's better to use patriotism, South Sudanese patriotism, because when you talk of nationalism, it presupposes that you have a nation. We don't have a nation in South Sudan yet. You need to build this nation, in order to be able to build nationalism, which is also a negative force, as we saw it, how it developed in Europe, and because in its extremity, it can become fascist. You see, where you don't want to hear or see other people or tolerate others. You see, so it is a struggle by all of us. You see, especially those who are educated have a task, have a task really to start this process of awareness raising and political education of the people. And then, of course, followed by organization. You see, the most unfortunate. Yeah, the most unfortunate thing is that even now to organize, you want to make a demonstration, you want to express, it will not be possible. So this situation works against any kind of awareness or any kind of, people, building trust among themselves. It encourages people to be more by going to small groups which are on tribal basis, and somebody you can trust, because it's not a simple thing. It's difficult.
There is a question here, Prof, from Dr. Arthur Gabriel. It's on the screen. I think you can read it on the screen and give and you can answer it. It's actually related to our last question.
Yes. Yes, Arthur, Dr. Arthur, yes, I think it is true. For any political body, any political party to attract people, it must have ideology. You see, it must have an ideology. It must have a political program, which it will implement. But of course, the difficulty here in the first part of your question is that, in a situation where many people are illiterate, you see, it's a problem, because in order to have a political program, a socio-economic and a political program must be written, must be something that people can read, can study, can be able to discuss, and be able to convince themselves that this is the right thing. And under the situation we are in, this is a problem. It's only within small groups. Because even within these small groups, let me give you an example. Before the war, we had political parties. Some of them were working underground, under the Nimeri regime. We were underground, but they came out in '85. And some published their political programs, you see. But because many of these political parties in South Sudan were mostly right-wing, and right-wing are not good in having political programs. They don't have this kind of thing. They do things in the most haphazard way. They're not that organized like the leftists. It's the Communist Party which had a program, a political program, which extended over a long period of time. But because the kind of ideological struggle against the communists, the way it is being demonized, you see, by the dominant ideologies of faith, it's so difficult for people to even declare that this thing of the Communist Party is the correct way of looking at the social and economic development of this country. So this is the danger we are having. Those were the best, the most appropriate and scientific ideas for socio-economic development of South Sudan. They are the most prosecuted. They're not allowed. And we saw this even within the SPLM. Some of us who were left-leaning many of us ended up in jail, in the SPLM jail for the last, from 1987 to 1972, 73. So it's a struggle, So linked to the struggle for freedom and independence, you are also struggling for your ideas to take root in the society. But then you have, religious, forces, working to counter this, and it's not easy. And they have alliance with the state, so it's not a simple thing.
I want you to answer the second part, Prof, of the question.
Yeah, second part, the dialectical perspective, which dictates that change is constant. Are we going to remain in constant state of transition from here until? Yeah, well, of course, from a scientific point of view, Arthur, we still live the stage of national democratic revolution. This stage can extend for the next 100 years. It's not until the program, until people reach a certain level of understanding, until a certain level of social and economic and cultural development, we will still be in this kind of situation. Because the problem facing us now, the problem of ethnicity, the problems of culture, of backwardness, these are problems of underdevelopment, which can only be addressed through a comprehensive program of national democratic revolution. Yes, Arthur. Aldo Ajo. Yeah, if I can answer Aldo's, we have already touched on this matter.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Prof. Yeah. Go ahead.
And I don't think it is, since we are in Juba, Aldo in Juba, we can still talk about it. But the truth is that we need to get out of this chaos. And the only way is for us, some of you people who have, driven people in the wrong direction before should now come back to say, look, this was wrong. And in fact, this has been my point before, that you should apologize to the people of South Sudan, because you organize yourself as an ethnic group. You see, if you had organized yourselves as intellectuals, southern intellectuals, or as political parties, nobody would have talked or condemned you for that. But you organized as the Jiang Council, and also not only that, you now, the power shifted from the SPLM to the Jiang Council. So you became the most influential instrument in the state, paralyzing all the instruments, the government instruments in the country. So I think this issue of federalism, this is something which people need to talk and have scientific and studies of it, so that we can now be able to discuss it. It's not something that can be applied in the way it is. These are, to me, it is right-wing solutions which are just short-sighted.
Good. Before the last question, before we talk about what is the way forward, does South Sudanese political parties movement need to adopt political ideologies to make politics in the country an arena of the completing ideas, Prof. Adwok? Because, like you answer in one of your answering to Michael Christopher and Matiang Shirilo, people in South Sudan, they don't like to discuss ideas. and that's why the country is going backward. So what is your index here?
We have something like 53 political parties. Some of them are registered, some of them are not registered. Some have parties. So it is really, in the democratic setting, you cannot tell somebody, stop this thing. It's a right to organize and for all these political parties, all of them, you can only divide them into two. There is the right-wing parties, political parties, which are the majority, including the SPLM. And then you have the Communist Party. And a few groups which have emerged, you see. So to me, without a political party, a political party without an ideology, really, it cannot be taken seriously. Because what are you going to tell the people? The issues we're in front of us now is issues of social, economic development, cultural development, issues of relationship with other peoples, other countries. These are things which you cannot do without having a clear understanding of these things. So it's better that we have parties which have really clear cut ideological stand, and you can now discuss with them what the differences are. And I think this is the biggest problem in South Sudan. Why people are not engaged in political debate? Because there are no ideas. People don't want to discuss ideas. They want to discuss about power. That's all. Who is in power and how to get to power. And as a result, the debate is stifled, and it cannot go further than that. So it is what would have encouraged this kind of thing is that you have a political space, a wider political space in which people can organize and really discuss or project their ideas onto this political stage, so that other people can see it. Even that, worse than that, is that they don't have even a program. Okay, and this has been our problem in the SPLM. We have been agitating that the SPLM need to have a political program. The manifesto is not a program. The manifesto was an announcement that it has been formed. That's it. But you need a political program in all the social, economic, and political spheres, which now can be turned into plans of action and implemented. This is not there. So as a result, the government, which is the SPLM government, since 2005, has not been able to implement anything. Even things which have been planned before, like for instance, the regional government did studies, feasibility studies of 7 important projects in South Sudan. When the SPLM came to power in 2005 and it had a lot of money, it could not implement any of these projects. One is the sugar company factory in Malut, the Tonj Kenaf factory, the Wow fruit factory, the Anzara, what do you call it, spinning and ginning company. You see, the Ematong, the Fuller electricity. These are projects, the cement factory in Kapoita. These were things which our feasibilities were studied, were already done. But then what was not missing during the regional government was that they did not have the money. Now the SPLM came, it had the money, but it did not have the program, and it could have adopted this program. In the absence of that action, What happened to the money? The money got stolen, and that's why the South today is poor.
Let's take three questions from the audience. And the question number one, Prof, is on the screen. I'm going to put them on the screen, I think, and there is another two questions from the audience. And then we give you chance to answer what is the way forward to the people of South Sudan, and also your message to the people of South Sudan. But let us take the first question is on the screen. You can look at it and then give answer to that.
Yes, Philemon. Yeah, it is true that too many parties, so many political parties, contributed to failure because of failure to social and democratic transformation. This is, I mean, let me say something about it. What is the necessity of many parties? This thing of splitting from one party and forming a political party separate from the other is something that has come. It's a culture in Southerners. First is driven by ethnic considerations. And the first split which occurred in the Southern political party was in Sano, 1965, when William split from his colleagues in the bush and came and decided to form Sano inside in the Sudan to play politics inside the country. So the split within the groups within the southern group because each one wants, to have his own voice, which would tell you that really there's a problem, because if everybody insists on his or her position, it means the issue of give and take is not there. And politics is about giving and taking, about self-sacrifice. And the people who cannot exercise self-sacrifice, it is a problem. It becomes a real problem as to how you can bring them together. And this, you see it even within the groups which are struggling against the government, against the SPLA. They have a split. Each person is placed to form his or her group, which is really a very terrible culture. It's a bad culture. It's a negative culture. And if it continues, it means that the question of unity becomes really it will be impossible to talk of unity in this sector. Yeah, because it must start with people who are leaders, to be able to unite the people, and this presupposes that one should be able to self-sacrifice and say, okay, forgo your right, as long as it does not interfere with the right to the national right of the people of South Sudan. You can give it up. What is leadership, for instance? Yeah? And this is a problem. And this underlies the fact that some people are ready even to take people to war because of their own personal opinion, and that they are right. So I think it is important for us to look into this, that the idea of formation of many political parties is not helping in uniting our people or in even pushing ahead the political debate or what kind of country do we want to build. Kajukaya, okay. The question of occupation of people's land, well, of course, is wrong. any illegal occupation of land is wrong. It must be condemned. And it's the same like somebody who says, when you take the land from some people and give it to others, that is completely, it is wrong. And it's a bad system that encourages that kind of thing. And it must be fought. Yes, Engineer Malwal. Well, that question, the political implication of the recent visit of the Egyptian president and the stability in South Sudan. That one, I think it is something I cannot answer because I don't have correct information. It was a short visit and it has not been discussed in any forum. So it would be difficult, really, unless one would be guessing on what the implication. But of course, generally, is that Egypt has an interest in South Sudan. As its interest in South Sudan is about water, and maybe in relation of South Sudan with other countries in the region, with which there is this issue of water. And to the best of my knowledge, of course, Egyptian interest in water runs against our interest for the use of Nile waters. And we were witness to those to the struggle in the 70s, 74, when there was demonstrations all over the south against the digging of the Jungle Canal. And if the Egyptians, the coming of the Egyptian president is to restart the digging of the canal in the face of what we have seen now as floods in South Sudan, it means that it will be something that we should focus our attention as South Sudanese to see that this is going to have a problem. It will have a serious impact on the stability of South Sudan and the relationship between us and the Egyptians. Yes, Jabara. Well, I would say that, you see, if you had followed me from before, that this struggle for suppression or separateness is always coming as a result of being afraid, as being weak. So in order to protect yourself, you need to be separate from the other person. This is the essence of this thing, what you call cockerel, which underlies this. And this did not come from the blue. It came from the fact that in an oppressive environment, some people are favored, others are not favored. You see, and those who are not favored will always find themselves in the receiving side of those who are favored, or those who can run and give service to the oppressor. So that is where some sentiments started to emerge, even among some of our colleagues, and we'll be discussing that separation of Equatoria is not even going to save the Equatorian people as such. It is a certain group, because they feel excluded from power, who want to separate the Equatoria in order to be able to take power and also oppress the Equatorian people. Because where are they? Those who are talking about it, are they not part of this system which is now oppressing the people?
Before we go to the way forward, do you think there is any connection between Kokra and federalism, calling for the federalism system in South Sudan? Is any connection between them, in your opinion?
Yeah, in the context of what I said before, that those who are calling for federalism, yeah, and historically, if you look at it, it's like those who called for Kokra before, which resulted in the dissolution of the southern region. The southern region was an achievement, a political achievement by the people of South Sudan. So when you struggle to destroy it, okay, it means that you are really working to destroy the whole thing. So this is exactly what is happening now. Those who feel threatened now, because the best way for them is to unite with others who are struggling against the system. This has always been the problem of Junubin, because instead of joining up with the other political forces in the north who are against the regime, the oppressive regime, they always tend to be separate, and that weaken that force instead of uniting and working together in order to transform that thing. So the Kokora has come in the same way. Or federalism is Kokora being closed. It's actually in the end you'll find that it is suppressive. You have one an equatorial state. You see, so these are stages in the formation of equatorial state. There are some intellectuals, some equatorial intellectuals who think like that this is the way to get rid of these tall people, nilotics and so on. That's somehow some of them perceive it. But honestly, the system is always better to unite with those who are opposed to the system in order really to change that system of operation and create a democracy. Once you participate in that struggle, you are participating in the democratic transformation of that system. You see, this is what we were saying when we were here in Juba, that instead of us dividing ourselves along regional lines or provincial lines, let us unite as South Sudanese together with other people in the north who are opposed to Nimeri in order to bring him down and change the system of dividing people. That's what it is. So really, in that respect, Yani, this as in terms of ideas by some of the intellectuals, some of them are my colleagues, I know them, who think that the ultimate aim is to have a equatorial state, separate, and they are very oblivious of the regional and the international situation. Because when South Sudan separated from the north, it was under certain conditions. You had an Islamic fundamentalist regime loose throughout the world and the region, and people thought that the only way to fight this fundamental regime was to separate the South. And that's why South Sudan, I mean, it was easy to reach the agreement. Otherwise, SPLM as a revolutionary force should have fought for changing that regime and destroying it in order to create a regime that is not fundamentalist and not based on religion. Because we have people in the north in Sudan who are not Muslims. There are people there who are not Arabs. You see, so when we left them there, you have left them in the mouth of the crocodile. The same thing they want to. Anybody who wants to separate instead of uniting the people, because there is no difference between our people. They are poor. They are still backward. There's no way you can say that these things are better than that. No, there's nothing. The problem is with this political elite who have distorted and created the kind of thing that give rise to this kind of sentiments of people trying to separate from one another. Uh, yes, Zakaria, of course, those in opposition with ideas should struggle to make their ideas be acceptable by the people. Yeah. Yes, Kwete, yeah, about electricity on the Soviet. Where in the Soviet River? Where do we want to locate it? Because the lower than Gambela, the whole thing is a flood. So it would be very difficult to place a dam on the Soviet because it would mean really flooding the whole of Western Equatoria, Western Western Ethiopia, and create problems for the Anuak and the Murle and the Nuer and the Majengar and other nationalities in those areas. If the idea is to have electricity for South Sudan, yeah, where the Fuller, the feasibility studies which were done for Fuller showed that the Fuller could produce electricity that can now extend to much part of South Sudan. Now, in the situation where you have the Renaissance Dam in Ethiopia, it means that South Sudan or Upper Nile would be easily supplied from both Fuller and from the Gert in Ethiopia. So you would not need a dam on the Soviet River because that would really generate more problems. And this is what I could say.
Very good, Doctor. I think we are going to the end. In your view, what is the way forward? Also, considering the calling for uprising in the country, as a way of changing the system in the country. What is the way forward, in your opinion, Brother Duke?
The way forward now, under the present condition we are in, is to implement the revitalized agreement in all its sections. It should be, especially the security arrangements, because once you have proper security sector, which is stable, which is national, which is accepted by all the forces, then that would be an insurance that there would be stability in the country. This thing of uprising, you cannot talk of uprising and at the same time talk of implementing an agreement. The two cannot go. Either we implement the agreement, or you say the agreement is faulty, and you go for armed struggle or intifada. That's it. But two cannot. The way I see now, the only way is to implement the agreement. And it's for the forces, the social and political forces that signed the revitalized agreement to implement it in letter and in spirit. Emmanuel has asked a potential. Yes, Emmanuel, what we have are potentials. We cannot talk of real or quantified mineral resources here because no studies have been undertaken. And until that is done, even as a geologist, it would be wrong for me to say, oh, South Sudan is rich in this and this when I don't have the studies in my hand. That has been always the problem with many people, many politicians who just talk that South Sudan is rich in minerals, and if you are asked where under what conditions or where are these minerals located is a problem, and this has created a problem now. In fact, I did a study recently about the mining, the risk to mining, risk management of mining in South Sudan, and the way people are going about doing this artisan and small scale mining, it is a real destruction to the environment of South Sudan. A destruction in that it will be very difficult later to make real studies because the environment of these minerals have been spoiled through this pollution and interference in the outcrops and so on. So it's a real problem for our people. No, but Olawa, you are taking this out of context. What I said is that the federalism as an idea came out hysterically from the fact that those forces who were struggling for federalism were forces because of they felt they're inferior to the forces in the north and the forces that are in power in the north, and that's why it was easier to struggle for suppression rather than to struggle inside for transforming the system in the country. That's what it is now. It's just the same political elite repeating the same thing. But the question, the bottom line is, how do you federate a country like South Sudan now? What are the mechanisms for doing it? Are you going to decree it? Because we had a constitution, 2005 interim constitution of South Sudan, which was more progressive than the constitution of South Sudan, the transitional constitution of South Sudan, 2011. And even this one, the amended one, is more reactionary, more more backward than the 2005 constitution. So really, I think it is diverting the attention of people from the real issues of socio-economic and cultural development of the country.
Let this one be the last question from Kwedi Ajawin, because Kwedi is a geologist actually. So
yeah, Kwedi, I don't think because geological map, to produce a geological map, you need to do studies, and studies require money. And the way I see it now, even since 2011, there has not been any budget put for this.
Yeah, thank you. What is your message to the people of South Sudan? Oh, the Brophy dropped. Sorry. Sorry, Mushahideen, Dictor Amal dropped. Brof, you can come down, then you can give the last message to the viewers and to the people of South Sudan. Sorry for that. أنا داير ننوه للمشاهدين بتاعتنا، ننوه للمشاهدين لعدي ما بروف يرجع، ننوه للمشاهدين بتاعت صوت الشعب إنه نحن بكرة بالصباح أفتكر نعمله بالصباح الساعة 10 I think الساعة 6 بالتوقيت بتاعت جنوب السودان. We'll make الحلقة بتاعنا بكرة خلينا يعني we decide to do it in the morning is better. Ambassador, tomorrow we are going to host Ambassador Emmanuel Ajawin and Engineer Dominic, and also we'll see if there is some people they need to join also. But initially we are going to host Ambassador Emmanuel Ajawin and Engineer Dominic Akwai to actually to talk about what Prof. Nyaba said, starting from the first interview to the second one and to the Voice of People interview today also. Tomorrow we'll discuss all those ideas with Ambassador Emmanuel Ajawin and Dominic, inshallah. People are saying also invite Aldo Ajo. Yeah, we'll actually talk to him if he is willing to come, or we can host them, both of them, Dr. Aldo Ajo and Prof. Peter Nyaba, so they can debate on some issues or some point. Let me try, Prof, if you can come so you can give your final message to the people or to the viewers. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Prof is back now. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Prof. Sorry. Hello? Prof. Dictor.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah. Hello. Yes. Sorry for that. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I got cut off. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah. I want you to give the final message to the people of South Sudan, and
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially.
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah. I want you.
I,
Yes. I want you to give the final message.
Hello?
Hello. Yes. The internet issues. The internet issue. The internet is the internet issue, Prof. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Francis Malwal. I will add you into the discussion tomorrow. Ladi, Prof, let me give you more 2 minutes so you can come back and give the last message to the viewers and to the people of South Sudan, especially to the youth. Let me actually put it tomorrow. The discussion tomorrow will be tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning, Central Time, which is equivalent to 6 p.m. in South Sudan, in Juba. And we are going to host Ambassador Emmanuel Ajawin, Engineer Dominic, and Dr. Francis Malwal. I will add you into the discussion. So tomorrow, Dr. Francis and also Charles Itaili is requesting. I will add you. So we'll make later on. I will try again to contact each of you. Then we can be prepared for tomorrow. But actually, initially, we are going to discuss to evaluate what Prof. Nyaba said from day one to our interview today with him. Just more 2 minutes. Let us hear from him the last message to the people of South Sudan and to the youth especially. That is good, John Garang. That is good. If you will be on time, no problem. I will add your name for tomorrow discussion. هنا دايرين نناقش بكرة زي ما أنا قلت للمشاهدين. دكتور دوك هو ذكر نقاط مهمة جدا في الانترفيو بتاعه كله. So نحن دايرين نناقش الحاجات ده, and also we will invite him again to listen. We'll invite him again also to make comment on what people are going to say about his comment. That is very important to create intellectual environment. Shabaga. Hello, Prof. Dictor. This look like Shabaga Anamari. What? Yeah, Philemon. Maybe Philemon, because let me call him. I think I can call him. معلش مشاهدين. Hello, Doctor.
Hello, Edward.
Yes, Shabaga Mush.
There's a problem with network. Shabaga Mia Raja.
Yes.
Juba. I think it is.
Yes, so I can.
This thing may MTN.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes, they are hearing you now. Yes, they are hearing you, bro.
Well, first I want to thank you all for listening and participating in this forum. And but of course, for us, if there's going to be change in this country, it needs us all to work together. There is need for us to organize, first of all, develop very clear understanding about what is going on in the country. Have a clear opinion about what is going on. Raise our social and political awareness. Organize ourselves. Mobilize ourselves for action when it is necessary. And of course, it is a struggle. Nothing comes by itself. Even for those who want federation. But federation is a struggle. Only that you should know how to get it, how it can be achieved under the obtaining circumstances we are in. Yeah. But what is clear to me is that the struggle is really about transforming the present situation, a situation in which the oil reserves have been sold for the next 10 years. South Sudan will not get any revenue from that. This is the information we got from the Minister of Finance, which means that there's not going to be money for the next 8 years because there has been advanced selling of oil. Also, it means the life will continue to be terrible. It will begin to deteriorate. Poverty will increase. Illiteracy will increase. Diseases will increase, even worse than what is happening now with corona. So people should be aware about this and look at this seriously and focus on it, so that people can now design ways of resolving, ways of addressing these problems. I want to end here and wish you all the best. And leave with you the slogan of the African Union that do not agonize, organize.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night. Good night, bro. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good night. شكرا جزيلا دكتور. شكرا جزيلا Professor Adug Nyaba. Thank you actually for accepting our invitation. We really do appreciate it. Thank you also for being with us 2 hours. مشاهدين لصوت الشعب خلينا نشكركم ونشكر بروفيسور أدوغ نيابا لقبول الدعوة ولبقائه معنا في المنبر لمدة ساعتين. أنا داير أنوه لكل المشاهدين إنه نحن بكرة ربما في ناس كثيرين they will not ناس كثيرين will agree with him, and also there is many people that will not agree with Professor ideas. But let me put this clear to anyone watching the show. Actually, we are talking about how we can bring the change in the country. So بكرة صباح بنفس المواعيد ده الساعة 6 بتوقيت بتاع جنوب السودان الساعة 10 Central Time. I will be live with Ambassador Emmanuel Ajawin, Engineer Dominic, Dr. Francis Malual, and we'll discuss, we'll evaluate Kalam Al-Galo Professor Adug Nyaba. I hope كل زول هو جاهز نقاط بتاعه because maybe I will not ask question. نحن دايرين to focus about الكلام اللي هو قاله ideas بتاعه federalism, التحول الديمقراطي كلام كله المدى الاكستنشن بتاع transitional period to 10 to 15 years. We need to discuss this as people of South Sudan and also give ideas كيف الكلام ممكن يمشي. لهذه هنا خلينا نشكر كل زول. let me give thanks لأي زول فيكم you ask a question, you ask a brof question. أنا بشكركم ناس دكتور أرسر and the rest of the people those ask question to brof. أنا بشكركم، وأنا بشكر الناس اللي بيكتبوا تعليقات. أنا بشكركم برضو. أنا بشكركم أي زول عمل شير لللايف فيديو بتاعتنا. أنا بشكرك. Please don't forget actually to subscribe to our channel on YouTube, member صوت الشعب, Voice of the People Forum on YouTube. Try to also follow us on the YouTube also will be good. You can watch in YouTube and also on Facebook. لحد هنا أنا بشكركم و you have a good night those in South Sudan and the rest of Africa. You have a good night and also those in Europe. Good afternoon للناس بتاعنا في أمريكا وكندا and actually good morning to people in Australia. Be blessed and also God bless Republic of South Sudan. Bye and see you tomorrow morning. Thank you.
منبر صوت الشعب، الراي والراي الآخر، شعب واحد ووطن واحد.
Nyaba Feb.